everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brittany of BrittanyJJones.com, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I do buttonholes using my HUSQVARNA Viking Epic 980Q. So let's get started. Okay y'all, so before we get started, I have a couple things here that I just want to talk about before we start putting buttonholes on my scrap piece of fabric here. The first two things are the two buttonhole presser feet that come with the Epic 980Q sewing machine. This one right here is the manual one, and this is foot C. This one right here is the automatic one. This is also foot C. You can see right here that they are the exact same presser foot. Move the cord out the way for you. You can see here they are exactly the same. It's just that this one has a cord attached to it, and I'll show you how both of them work on the machine. So I just want to show you the feet first. This right here is a buttonhole guide. You get this guide in your pattern. It's just like a standard guide. You'll get it in with button-up shirts, shirt dresses. Most of the time they have a buttonhole guide in the pattern for you. So I have this, and also have some scrap fabric here. Now I want to show you that on my scrap fabric I have interfaced one side of it because I'm trying to mimic a fold over button placket, or even just a button placket. When it comes to doing buttonholes, buttons, you always want to stabilize that area. So I've just applied just a strip of interfacing here. As far as the buttonhole guide goes, I like to transfer my markings after I've completed my project. I find then that I can just kind of place this on top of it and then do my markings to make sure that I have the buttonholes where I want them to be. Maybe, you know, this part may fall between your bust area, but you really want a button right there at the bust. Then you can easily just move that stuff around once you have your project done, but that's just something that I like to do. I've transferred 3 of the markings here. You probably cannot see them, but when we start sewing, I have red thread, so you'll be able to see them clearly. Now we can go ahead and go to the machine, and I will show you how I do my buttonholes. So I just turned on my sewing machine, but the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and attach my automatic buttonhole foot, and the foot just snaps on here in place, and then we take this plug and then we plug it into the back of the machine. Okay, so I have the automatic buttonhole foot snapped on and plugged into the back of the machine. So now I'm going to show you the 2 ways that you can get to the buttonhole feature. Right here, right up under the Joy OS advisory, you have a buttonhole button here. If you click that button, it will take you to the tutorial, and it will walk you through sewing on the buttonhole. So that's one way to do it. And you can see here that it is picking up the sensor that I have my automatic buttonhole foot already attached. I absolutely love that. But the other way that you can do it, I'm just going to go back to the main screen, and I like to just push the start new button. It will take you to your A utility stitches. If you scroll up, then you will see the different variety of buttonholes that you can use. I usually just go with 30, which is the bar tack buttonhole, but you also have other options. 31 is the round end buttonhole. 32 is a keyhole buttonhole. This one here is a tapered keyhole buttonhole. A decorative fashion buttonhole. I mean, you just have a couple options here that you can choose from, but again, I like to just stick with 30, which is kind of like the standard bar tack buttonhole. And you can see here that it's still picking up the automatic buttonhole foot. This right here is an actual view of what the stitch will look like. Right here is the length of how long you want your buttonhole to be. So let's just say you have a big button, you need a bigger buttonhole, you can adjust it up. If you need something smaller, you can always make it smaller and adjust it down, but it always defaults to 0.56. Down here is the width of how wide you need your buttonhole to be, so you can make it smaller or you can make it wider if you need be. But this right here is the default, and I usually just stick with the default setting. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my scrap piece of fabric, and now we can sew on a buttonhole. When using the automatic buttonhole presser foot, it's important to make sure that you have fabric up under this red wheel. This red wheel needs to be able to turn. That way it will sense when it needs to stop and go across and come back down. If you don't have fabric up under this, the buttonhole will just keep going. It won't stop. It won't come back and do the proper tacks that it needs to do to make the buttonhole. So always make sure that you have fabric fabric under this wheel. For this machine, the buttonhole, it starts here at the bottom and it works its way to the top. I know different machines may start at the top and work its way to the bottom, but for this machine you need to put your needle, have your needle lined up with the bottom marking so it can go to the top, then come back down and go across and then make the buttonhole. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and line up my bottom marking right here with my needle. It's important to make sure that you have these white markings here that are on the red wheel. I'm trying to get them over here for you. You can see the white markings on it. They need to line up with this marking right here. If they are not lined up, you will get a prompt on your screen that will tell you to make sure that you line these markings up. So again, make sure that you line up the white markings on the wheel with the white marking right here on the foot, and then you'll be able to start sewing. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and line up my marking here, and I'm gonna push my start button. Cut my thread, and here is my buttonhole. So here's the first buttonhole. I'm gonna go ahead and go through those steps again to do one more. I have another marking up here, and again I'm just gonna line up the bottom marking with my needle. I'm gonna make sure the white markings on my wheel is lined up as well. I'm gonna push my start and stop button here. Cut my thread, and there you have it, another buttonhole. It's important to make sure that when you are doing buttonholes that you are not moving your fabric in any way. You saw that I was just guiding my fabric along. I wasn't shifting it at all. So just make sure that you do that. And so for the last buttonhole I have here, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the automatic foot, and I'm gonna put on the manual one and show you how to make buttonholes using that foot. Okay, so now I have the manual buttonhole presser foot attached. When you are sewing with the manual presser foot, you're gonna have to use the reverse stitch so it can go to the next step to make the buttonhole. It's also important to make sure that your markings are visible so you will be able to see once you get to the top of the buttonhole, then you'll be able to push the reverse stitch so it can go across to make the bar tack at the top, and then it will go down, and once it gets to the bottom and line up with the first line, then you can push the reverse button again so it can finish off making the buttonhole. So it's important to make sure that you have your markings very clear when you're using your manual buttonhole foot so you will know where you are stopping at, so you can push the reverse button so it can go to the next step to make the buttonhole. So now let's go ahead and sew another buttonhole using the manual presser foot. Okay, so now I'm going to start sewing. Push my reverse button. And now that I'm lined up, let me go down a little bit more. Okay, and now that I'm lined up with the first part here, now I'm going to push my reverse button again so it can finish off the buttonhole. Cut my thread. And there is the buttonhole that I just made with my manual foot. So now I'm going to go ahead and make just another buttonhole marking here so I can show you one more time. I have another buttonhole marking made. So now again I'm going to line it up at the bottom of the buttonhole. Okay, I think that's good. I'm trying to see. Okay, I'm going to start sewing here. Now I'm at the top of the buttonhole. I'm going to push the reverse button. Now I'm back lined up with the first of the side of the buttonhole. I'm going to push the reverse button again. Now I'm going to cut my thread. And there's my other buttonhole. So here are the buttonholes that I just made. If you don't have, this is a little buttonhole maker tool that I purchased off of Amazon, and you just kind of put that up under your buttonhole and just push that in there. So there you have it, the buttonhole's open. Or if you don't have that, you can always just use your seam ripper, but a tip to help you so that you don't just go slicing through the end is to just use a pin, put it there, and just go down the buttonhole really gently, and there you have it there. So again, let's go ahead and open these up. And there you have it. So that is how I make my buttonholes with my HUSQVARNA Viking Epic 980Q sewing machine. I really do hope this video was helpful. I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Blessings, everyone. Bye.